so that we can then put that on cable systems and dish systems around the world, at least with a 1 hour produced show that we will tape and then edit together here. That we're planning on taping some of the live call-in segments and also putting that out over television. And if that works and is successful, if we're able to launch that and fund that, thanks to all of your generous support, we will move to a 5-day-a-week television show as quickly as we can as we hurtle into what can only be described as a depression instituted and orchestrated by the federal government. So again, 888-201-2244, and PrisonPlanet.tv viewers can see that live right now on their screen. Incidentally, we are running a special 5+ months free. It comes up to 5.3 months free when you get a yearly membership and pay for 6.7 months. When you pay for 6.7 months, you get 5.3 months free at PrisonPlanet.tv, and you can share that with several people, and the passcode will still work, so we hope that you get yourself a membership and then give that to others. And also, all 21 of my films, all of my other special reports, these TV reports, everything is posted at PrisonPlanet.tv, easily downloaded and burned to disk to share with others. And basically every subject that you can imagine is posted up on PrisonPlanet.tv. It's 4.5 years up and running, I guess, since April of 2003, so quite a long time that we have been doing that. But here is the Austin Chronicle telling us how great the foreigners are who were not citizens and put in the military, and then once they prove themselves, they get to become citizens. Again, all sounds romantic. It's being pitched simultaneously in every major newspaper we see, all part of a PR propaganda campaign. Now, this may not be paid for by the government, but I had a guest on last week reporting from Congress that billions of dollars in fake news and propaganda are paid for each year and put in newspapers, TV, and radio, and the public is never told about that. And it's clearly a unified propaganda push, and then other newspapers kind of parrot it and pick it up, I guess not knowing they're part of that. So we don't know what the Chronicle is up to there. But if you turn to page 32, and in the future we're going to have a document cam that's going to zoom in. Also, we're adding all of this as we go along here, where you will be able to see all of this. But there it is, translating the war, and how great it is that we have all these foreigners making up our military. So just absolutely incredible to see this happening. You can go read that report for yourself if you live in Austin. This is a free newspaper. It's kind of like the Dallas Observer, or the San Francisco has a weekly paper. It's very, very popular. But again, I'm seeing this everywhere. In other propaganda, I was in the gas station last night getting some gas, and I noticed that at quite a few gas stations lately I've been seeing this flyer or similar flyers, and it says, "Stop Child Abuse." And we're going to show you a little bit closer shot of that. Stop Child Abuse. And over 1 million children a year are taken from their parents and growing. There are federal bounties on children's heads. And the federal government admits, the Justice Department admits, and it's also been a Newsweek cover story, that in government custody, in foster care control, children are 5 times more likely to be abused or die than in anyone else. So I wonder why they're not putting out brochures everywhere about stopping government child abuse when they're the biggest offender, and how horrible it is and how terrible it is, or how I wonder why there aren't flyers about the Texas Youth Commission caught by the Texas Rangers selling the children in their custody into prostitution in the prison facilities. And why that got swept under the rug, don't know about it. Google Texas Youth Commission and what's happening to the children there. And there are all these private adoption agencies and these churches and these big institutions, hundreds of thousands of dollars every child they get adopted out, huge government contracts. Some of the owners of these that I've seen in just the Texas state budget, some of the directors of these things are making millions of dollars a year apiece. And so what happens is, now you hear about a child in front of witnesses falling off a jungle gym, and they take him to the hospital and the CPS comes and takes him. Or you hear about everybody who has their child in Head Start now is considered government welfare under eugenics, and they get 3 CPS visits to the home. Public doesn't know they can refuse it, and they come in and find dirty dishes or something and take their children. They are now taking people's children if they're not basically obese. They're also taking people's children if they are obese. And none of this is due process. These are not real courts. They were set up in the 1920s and 30s in the United States, earlier than that in Germany and England, under the eugenics courts. We play clips on the show where they're having to hand out hundreds of millions of dollars now. This went on until the 80s. And so the special family courts were set up to decide whether you'd be sterilized, to find out if you were even allowed to have children. And they took a lot of the children of poor families and institutionalized them and did chemical and biological testing on them. Am I saying there aren't some good orphanages? And am I saying that there aren't some good foster parents out there? Certainly there are. But the system itself is predatory and violates due process and abuses many more children than they help. And then the state will not investigate these orphanages. The state will not engage in oversight. They will not investigate all the tens of thousands of deaths every year. The children locked up, being starved to death in cages. Just a few days ago in California, the kid busts loose, all beaten and bloody with a chain on his leg. They go and bust him. And I said, you watch, it's going to be foster parents. Well, it was. A foster parent had sold them to the pedophiles. And I, by the way, predicted this on air, and it came out. Because I've seen it a million times. I mean, literally. Because every time they said that he'd been in foster care, but it had run away. And I said, no, you watch. They sold him, because that's what they do. You see, foster care has the highest turnover of any state or federal job. Okay, the CPS workers have the highest turnover. It's more than 50%. You can pull that up. More than 50%. Why is that? Because moral people think they're going to go help children that are being neglected or beaten or tortured or hurt. They get in and they find out that it's two other groups in there. The sociopaths that just want the bounties on every child they kidnap, and the big corrupt orphanages and organizations that get federal money for drugging the kids, saying they're special needs, or if it's a healthy baby, getting $200, $300, $400, on average about $200, but sometimes $500,000 in fees, especially if it's blonde-haired, blue-eyed. That's on record that's what happens. So I wanted to talk about the fact that the government will not investigate itself, and so that's why all of this is so ripe for abuse. And that's why we're seeing such incredible, abhorrent things happening. But if you pull up the California case, just type in California case, shackled boy. And then you go back, I guess it came out about a week ago. The day it happened, I said, folks, they say he ran away from foster parents. Watch. I bet you $1 million. I said this on air. When we get more staff, I'm going to have them waiting, and whenever I say something, pulling it up and playing it on air from when I said it the week before. And it came out this weekend. It was in the newspapers in California that indeed the foster parents had basically done some transaction and sold this child out to him. Remember 4 years ago in Florida, it came out that 3,500 plus children were missing out of foster care. And they kept finding them dead, kept finding them tortured, kept finding them in other states. They were being sold. And then when a child disappears, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years old, there's no Amber Alert, there's no national alert. They just say, we don't know where the child is, or they're a runaway. And then 9 times out of 10, they're being sold by the foster parents to pedophile rings. So why do you have this massive 50+% turnover? What's happening is good people get in and go, my God, I was here really to help children. And then they leave, and then it's only the pedophiles that are one group, and I don't know what percentage that is, but it's admitted the highest percentage of pedophiles out there are truancy officers, CPS workers. They're constantly getting caught, and that's in basic criminology. If you go take that at a major university or pull up those crime statistics, you hear about all the time teachers and foster care workers raping kids, and they finally do get caught because they'll do it publicly. It's in the news every day, but they try to downplay it. Or they'll say a parent rapes their child, and you read the fine print, foster parent. 9 times out of 10, literally. Just check this out for yourself. This is unbelievable. So there's the sociopaths that just want the money, the headhunters, that want the federal and state money, the bounty on children, and there is one. Or it's the pedophiles, and that's all that's left in the foster care situation. So this is the total dehumanization that we are talking about here. So I don't know about Stray, a Children at Heart ministry helping life's darkest hours. I don't know if it's a good, bad, or indifferent organization. But let me tell you, the nomenclature that they have here does not sound good in any way. So let me just read this to you. Then I'm going to cover the Ebola in pigs, which is just unbelievable in the Philippines. And then, I guess I didn't think about this. I can look over here and get my callers. Soon we're going to have a laptop in here or a built-in system so I can more readily check that out. But I see your calls coming in. Sherry in Texas, Tim in Houston, Chris in Tampa, Leo in Mass, JT in Colorado, and many, many others. So your calls are coming up. But let me just read this. Now imagine you've got all these do-gooders reading CPS billboards about stop abuse children. In between the billboards saying report illegal guns that show a picture of a revolver so that everybody thinks revolvers are illegal when they're not. See, this is all brainwashing using your tax money. Half the billboards I see in Texas now are government propaganda. It's like we live in North Korea or something on that front. I mean, that's not a free society when half the billboards are government propaganda about tattle on your neighbor, spy on your neighbor. Now listen to this. There's no excuse for child abuse. Each year, there are tens of thousands of confirmed cases of child abuse or neglect in Texas. Tens of thousands of confirmed, but there's no due process, there's no jury. Just these eugenics courts set up 80 years ago, 90 years ago, depending on what state,